Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and another month has flown by, and it's time for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp once more. So, here's Herbert Erpaderp answering questions. Panzer 4 said, do you have any recommendations for a slightly larger Australian train kit? I've never built one before, and have no idea what kits are out there. I don't want something to run around the track, just one that will look nice on a shelf. I don't think I've got a good answer for this. It seems to me that Australian prototype trains are less common, and they do tend to be quite expensive. I've never really looked for any kits like that, and I suspect if they do exist, they would not only be the kind intended for running on a model railway, which would make them kind of expensive to begin with, but they would probably also be made of brass, which means even more expensive. I am assuming that you mean like a plastic kit. It just doesn't really seem to be a thing. Though there are companies like Hobby Boss who offer plastic kits of locomotives and things like that. I've actually got one of their German tank engines sitting on my shelf that I'm thinking of building soon. As far as I know, they don't have any Australian trains. I would kind of like that myself though, being Australian, so if anybody knows of anything like that, I'd be keen to hear about it as well. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, what are your thoughts on Bionicle? I don't really have any. It wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I think it started in the early 2000s, and at that time I was much more interested in music and girls and drinking and things like that, so it's not really something I was into, and so nowadays I don't have any nostalgia for it or anything like that. So if I was to get anything Lego, it would just be regular Lego, or maybe some of that cool olden days space Lego or something. Trekan Beluvic said, some people like to say no regrets, but do you think someone can evolve without regretting things? I guess it kind of depends on how you define regret. I think generally, you need to make mistakes and then learn from them in order to evolve. If you don't make mistakes, how can you know what needs to change? But do you regret those mistakes? Mistakes and regrets sort of go together, but they're not the same thing. So if the change happens whether or not you regret it, you still evolve, right? I think that makes sense. You can evolve without regretting things, but you can't do it without making mistakes. Or maybe at least observing somebody else making mistakes. Good question. An unreadable name, or in parentheses, SB, who is Spanish boy, said, if you haven't already, do you ever plan to play Sons of the Forest? As I do believe you've played The Forest before. Barnaby and I plan to play Sons of the Forest pretty soon. I still haven't bought it for myself because, well, it's not cheap, but we're pretty keen to give it a try. I've seen a couple of people streaming it and it looks like fun. We did play The Forest, and that was a lot of fun too. We never actually finished it because we got distracted from the story by building stupid things and messing around. Herchion said, the state of Tasmania has gifted you a free Herbert Erpaderp clone. Which one of these do you ask the clone to do? Build models, paint models, build scenery, search the carpet for things taken by the carpet monster. I'm assuming the clone is its own person and I won't somehow magically gain enjoyment from the tasks the clone does. So I guess I'd be a bit of a dick and have it do the only one I don't really want to do myself. He can search for missing parts and do battle with the carpet monster. Trekan Beluvic said, did future Herbert ask for an anti-tank hunter archer at some point? I don't know. He does, being future Herbert, have the Flames of War archer. He would probably like another one though, and I do know that past Herbert has asked for one too. Martin Gotham said, have you thought about turning a brake van into a loco? The thought has never crossed my mind, and it seems like it would be far more work than it'd be worth, and I don't really see a use for a powered brake van. That said, I have seen powered freight wagons for weaker, or I guess more likely, unpowered locos, especially in smaller scales from the times when they couldn't make small enough motors for things like small steam engines. I feel like that's something you would really want at the front of the train though, rather than at the rear in a brake van. It might make for a fun runaway train model though. I don't think it's something I would do myself. I don't have the skills for that kind of thing, so it would be a lot of work. Ratto said, have you tried eating glass in 7 Days to Die? I'm pretty sure I tried that the first time we played it, and the results are kind of predictable, so I haven't done it again. That's not to say I won't do it again, just that I haven't yet. Hetzer's Gunner Hetzer said, what are your thoughts on the Steam Deck and similar devices? I think they're a cool idea, but not something I need or really want. I never really feel a need to do any gaming when I'm not within reach of my PC, and if I do, it wouldn't be anything more than a simple phone game to kill a couple of minutes while I'm waiting for something. And if I'm waiting for something, I would rather just look at social media, because then I don't have to get too invested. I can definitely see the appeal though for people who want portability and maybe spend a lot of time waiting around. Fog of War said, Dear Herbert, I found myself shouting the correct names for the tank parts at the screen while watching your excellent Rubicon purging video. Once I realized what I was doing, I went and had a good lie down until the feeling passed. My question is, do you think it's possible to catch rivet counteritis? If I have, is there a cure, treatment, or possibly a vaccine? Can I be saved, or am I doomed to become an increasingly bitter old man? Excuse me, I have to go shout at some kids who are on my lawn. P.S. Battlefront's Comet Armored Squadron box for Flames of War is awesome. Good luck with yours. Do you plan on building one of the ram tanks as the gun tank version? I don't think I'll be able to resist that when I get to building mine. That sounds like it could be some kind of tank-related form of Tourette's, though obviously I'm not a doctor. I guess maybe some people could be predisposed to catching rivet counteritis, though it doesn't seem to be especially contagious, otherwise I probably would have caught it myself. Though there is more than one form. There's the kind that makes people aggressively tedious about the number of rivets in any piece of equipment, and the kind where people just know how many rivets a thing has. I believe the latter is fine. Incurable, but you'll live. The main treatment of the former is being sent to the void. Doesn't seem like a fun treatment, but it works. Also, I can definitely relate to being old and having to shout at kids on lawns too. No good punks. Back in my day, we used to show some bloody respect, and by gum, if we even thought about stepping out of line, we'd be chopped into pieces and used as for the ram gun tank, I definitely won't be able to resist. I'm going to build one. Maybe 2, or 3, or 4, maybe 5. Mark Ferguson said, a public thank you to those who can afford to be patrons for letting the rest of us freeload off your hard-earned kopecks. Thank you. I certainly also appreciate the patrons. It's thanks to them that I was able to get the Comet Armored Squadron box mentioned in the previous question. There is a question about post-World War II armour. How about that Swedish S-tank? Is it really a tank if it doesn't even have a turret? I mean, they call it a tank, and the early World War I tanks didn't have modern-style turrets, so what's the definition other than we say so? Also, would you build an S-tank kit? I think the definition is just, it's a tank because we say it is, and I'm sure there's probably plenty of discussion around that topic. Personally, I'm pretty indifferent to it. I guess the alternative thing to call it is armoured fighting vehicle, but that's so many syllables. Tank is nice and simple. I would definitely build an S-tank. They're weird and interesting looking, which obviously appeals to me quite a bit. Dave Jacoby said, your videos would be so much better if you didn't try to be funny. The reviews in this are kind of bad too. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't try to be funny, I'm just hilarious by default. Also, I'm not sure what reviews you think you're seeing. Ask a Herbert Erpaderp doesn't contain any reviews. I don't even really consider my build videos to be reviews. I assume though that you mean the part where I share pictures of the work people in the Discord server share, which isn't a review. I've got no interest in making that a review kind of thing. It sounds tedious. I just want to share and spread enjoyment of the hobby, which we will now do. Trekan Beluvic shared this glorious and mighty KV-1. This particular tank is the platoon leader, and I'm pretty sure Trekan added that log. You've got to have the traditional Soviet log. The background is red because this vehicle belongs to the Red Army. This model is a 15mm scale plastic kit from Battlefront. Trekan has done a really good job with this, which is not at all unusual. Peterenko shared another tiny Soviet tank. This time it's a T-34-76. The model is in 15mm scale, and it was Peterenko's first time doing a winter whitewash. Everything was done with acrylics and a brush. I would say it looks pretty good, and it's quite convincingly wintry. The built-up snow is a great example of using, well, snow in this case, but mud could also be used, to hide the fact that the treads on these kits aren't very well detailed. The snow, or mud, lets your brain fill in the details without actually seeing them. Well done. Sneaky Zaku shared these very friendly looking 40k fellows. I'm not up on my 40k lore, so I'm not really sure what this unit is, but it's got slime, and you probably don't want him to put that slime on you. It does look awesome though. Now for something a little bit less slimy. Vertron X has shared this T29E1, and while I'm not sure, because I'm old and prone to misremembering things, I believe this is a 35th scale kit from Tacom, or maybe Amusing Hobby. Either way, it looks really cool, and I like the paint job. It looks like it's been driven through a bit of mud, and now some poor bastard's going to have to hose it down. Nicely done. Yantima shared this flying machine. It's a Focke-Wulf 190. Do what to a wolf? Haha, yes, very funny. I quite like the weathering on this. It looks like the plane has seen a lot of use, but there are no bullet holes, and it doesn't seem to be on fire, so it's probably got a lot of fight left in it. I feel like this is a good example of why decals should be applied early, before any weathering, just as a random thought. It looks good. I believe this last picture should be captioned, "Boop." Planes love to be booped. Okay, so that's all the models this month. As always, there's been a lot of other models in various stages of completion shared over on Discord that I haven't shared here. There just isn't time. So if you want to see everything, you'll have to go over there and take a look. There's a link in the description. Also, if you haven't, feel free to share some of your own work. That'd be awesome. I'd like to say a big thank you to the folks who share their modelling work and ask questions. And regular non-question comments are also appreciated. Most of the time anyway. And of course an extra big thank you to my patrons, and those who subscribe over on Twitch. It would be hard to do any of this without your support, so it means a lot. And of course thanks to everybody who watches. There wouldn't be much of a point if you weren't around. Ask a Herbert Erpaderp will return next month, so if you've got a question you'd like to be answered by a Herbert Erpaderp, you could ask that in the comments here, or in the appropriate channel on Discord. Subscribe and ring the YouTube bell. Check the description for links to Patreon and Discord and social media. Take care of yourselves, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.